Okay, I think we will get started, and those that join will just catch up when we do. All right, so good morning, welcome. My name is Jeremy Cherney, and I'm the owner and founder and president of Tobin Solutions. We provide IT security and IT services for the world, and I appreciate you coming today to join our webinar on empowering a remote workforce. Um, we'll be going through how you can do that with Microsoft 365. You may have some questions as we go along, and so you can feel free to use the chat feature of our GoToMeeting, and at the end we'll unmute everyone if there's any overall questions you want to answer or ask, and I can answer, or maybe you'll help answer as well, because I don't know everything. the At the end, you are going to get a brief survey, and we really appreciate you completing that. That is going to help us understand how this webinar went for you. And along with when you complete the survey, you'll also get the presentation slides via email. We're also recording this, and this will be available at our YouTube channel at another time. So when we first start talking about remote workforce, what are we really talking about, right? Um, some of you may have already had some bit of remote access to your systems where people could go and work from home. Maybe it was for email, maybe it was a VPN or a remote desktop or some web-based solution. And then 2020 hit, and suddenly there was a kind of a forced stay-at-home rules, and everyone was suddenly had a need to not just jump in for some email from working from home, but really try and do their entire jobs from home. And so that opened up a lot of issues, a lot of opportunities, and Tobin Solutions was no different in that. We traditionally had everyone be at our office, and we also went to a remote workforce, and we've had such great success with it that now our workforce is entirely remote, with just limited people going into the office, which allowed us to give up some of our office space and really connect in a way that we hadn't been connecting before. In fact, we had one of our quarterly team days, and we did it all via online through Teams, and they said it was one of the best team days ever. So when we think about remote workforce, what do we really need for people? We talk about mobility or bring your own device. So that's the ability for people to work from home. Maybe you're providing them with a computer, but they might be using their own computer. They might be using their phone or their tablet. So you want to be able to address all of those. One concern people always have is security. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing is going to be secure, that people can securely access information for those that are authorized and block all those that are not authorized. You want them to have easy access to those resources that you provide. You want to be able to collaborate, communication, and being connected, right? We talk about, through something being able to chat. We talk about voice and video calls, uh, internally or with customers. But there's also that aspect of that kind of social world. Humans are social beings, and there's something about having a team that where you're all in the office and be able to see each other and be with one another. And now that looks different now that we're working from home. Um, Lastly, you want some level of accountability, right? Normally you could walk around the office, you could talk to people, see what they're up to, ask them if they have any questions, check in on things, and that gets a little more challenging when people are working from home. Um, a lot of you may have started going back to work already, and that's awesome as far as, I should say go back to work. You were probably already always working. Going back to your office, uh, and that's great, and a lot of companies are doing that. And I don't know how this is going to go going forward. I don't have a crystal ball or a magic 8 ball or anything on this, but I suspect that there's going to be, more opportunities where people need to work from home. Maybe there's a outbreak at a school or daycare, or someone in your office got sick and you need to self-quarantine the office. So I suspect even if you're at the office, there may be some of that flipping back and forth where you or some of your team or all of your team might need to work remotely. So this is a great time to get this stuff dialed in, keep improving on it so that people can work effectively. One of the tools we use for this, and what the subject of today's webinar is how Microsoft Office 365 really delivers on this. I just love this visual of a Swiss Army knife because there's so many tools you get with Microsoft 365. And for those of you who aren't aware or haven't had it yet and you're considering what Office 365 can do, it's a monthly subscription service from Microsoft. They have different tiers of service that include different offerings. It's a cloud solution, so Microsoft is hosting everything for you, the applications and the data, and they have a guaranteed uptime. And Tobin Solutions can assist with security and support and migration, administration, development, and integration. A few of the common tiers, Microsoft has a number of tiers, but some of the ones that a lot of companies are using, especially in the small business marketplace, there's a Business Basic Edition, which includes almost all the features that Office 365 has that most people need, but it's all mostly web-based and tablet and device-based. They've got a standard edition that includes all of that, but also lets you install the full versions of the desktop applications. They also have something that's an apps for business, which is, it doesn't include email, but it really includes file storage and the desktop applications. And they also have a business premium edition, and that includes everything that's in the business standard, but it also includes advanced security for mobile device management. And that's something that you really want to think about. If you're providing computers that people are taking home, how are those devices being managed? If you're providing phones and tablets, how are those being managed? And if you're not providing them and you're allowing your team to use their personally owned devices, again, how is that being managed? Because security is important. We have a security first mentality at Tobin Solutions, and you want to know that whatever device they're using is going to be safe and secure. So one of the great things with Microsoft 365 is modern smart device support. So whether you're on any modern Android phone or tablet or Apple product, an iPhone or iPad, you've got support. So all the applications that you use are available as apps running on those devices. So you're not trying to use it on a tiny little web browser on your device. There actually is. If you're using Microsoft Word, there's a Word app. If you're using Excel, there's an Excel app. So you've got all these applications that are native to the system. So that's one way you get access to the mobility side of Microsoft 365. Also, all the applications are available via web browsers. So any modern web browser you use, whether it's Microsoft Edge or Chrome or Firefox or even Internet Explorer, you just go to office.com and you log in with your ID and password, and you'll have access to all your data and all those applications inside a web browser. Now, some of the experience is going to be a little bit different, and so you'll want to understand that. But for a lot of what people do, they want to get in and do their email. They want to get in and review documents and maybe do some basic editing and that. You can do all of that inside a web browser. And so that's really handy. And especially if you're someone that's used to like Google Suite, G Suite, where you do email and Google Docs through a web browser, Microsoft gives you that experience as well. You also get the full desktop applications if you're on that tier of service. That's what a lot of people are very comfortable with, right? Full versions of Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You get those for Windows. You get those for Mac. There's a Mac version, and included with the business standard subscription, you get up to 5 devices. So if you've got a desktop computer, a laptop, you've got a home computer, you want to install it on all of those, you can do that. So they give you enough licensing so that you can use it all those places. The other nice thing with those is they're always updated. So in the past, maybe you bought Microsoft Office and you would periodically, have to upgrade it as needs changed. This, as long as your subscription is current, you're always going to have the current versions of these applications. Another nice feature with Microsoft 365 is what's called guest access. So while we talk about empowering your workforce to be able to work within your team, within your organization, you know, usually you're trying to also work with a customer or a partner of some sort, or maybe one of your vendors. And so within your Office 365 environment, and I'm calling it Office 365, Microsoft rebranded it Microsoft 365, and sometimes I slip back into Office 365. So when I say Office 365, I mean Microsoft 365. Um, you can actually invite guests. So whether you're doing something Microsoft Teams and you want to have a video conference, or whether you want to share documents or folders, they don't need a license to do it. You can invite them and they can get in and securely see what you've made available to them. So that's a really nice feature built into the applications. Security is really critical with this. When you're using systems that are hosted in a cloud and you're using them from a variety of devices around the world, some of the devices you may not control or manage, you want to know that things are secure. So Microsoft bakes security into the solution. They have something called the Secure Score dashboard, and they also have device management options. So that allows you to profile where you're at with your security posture. They give you a checklist of things you can do to improve your security and ways you can manage mobile devices so that those are also being maintained and secure. So beyond, when people get Microsoft 365, some of the first things they're using is email, right? They're using email and Outlook, and Microsoft 365 hosts that just great. Um, they use their desktop versions of Microsoft Office. One of the things they want to start doing is they want to start collaborating. They want to start moving documents to the cloud. And the place to put that is in what Microsoft calls SharePoint. That's one place you can do it. So SharePoint is, you can think about it a couple different ways. It's this internal website that only you can access within your organization. Um, you can put links to things, you can store documents, you can put pictures, you can put news and information. You can actually collaborate on documents inside of SharePoint. So SharePoint becomes your file server in the cloud. The documents can be stored there. You can assign permissions to them based on groups and individual users. And then once it's in the cloud, you have access to it through a web browser or through the applications that can read and write directly to SharePoint. If you give guest access, you can also give guest access to some of your SharePoint information. And as Microsoft Office has evolved, the new Office applications now talk directly to SharePoint document libraries where you can store documents. So it's really great. It's a great way to communicate with your team. You can use a SharePoint team site as kind of what's happening today at your organization. You can put news and information. You can put a company calendar, company contacts. There's a lot of different things you can do with SharePoint, but out of the box, you get something called a team site, which almost looks a lot like this and lets you do a lot of things right away. While SharePoint is that place for that group collaboration, that company-wide collaboration, you may have had on your server internally, or maybe in your My Documents folder, you've got your personal documents, either documents personal because of your job description, or maybe you have a few personal documents in there, and those aren't documents you want to put out in SharePoint for everyone else to see. So what Microsoft has is something called OneDrive. OneDrive becomes your My Documents or your U Drive in the cloud. So you can store documents there that only you can see. There is some limited sharing, but we think if it's going to be something you're going to really share with a lot of people, you're going to want to put it into SharePoint. But it works a lot like Dropbox if you're familiar with Dropbox. So you install some software on your computer so you can see it on your local drive. You can copy documents. It all gets synchronized, but you can also see it through a web browser. You can read and write directly to OneDrive from your Microsoft Office applications, and there's apps for it as well. So, you could have something in your OneDrive that you're working up on your desktop, and then maybe you're out on the road somewhere, um, and a client says, hey, can you email me that document? You can open up OneDrive on your phone and email that document right from your phone. or if someone's, you want to review something, it can really do. Someone's asking about SharePoint, is it HIPAA compliant? Yeah, Microsoft 365 complies with a number of different compliant options. One of them is HIPAA, including the option to sign a business associates agreement with them. And that covers across all of the Microsoft applications. Someone's asking if SharePoint's included in the Office 365 subscription. It is. It's included with every tier. You get some level of it, at least the ones I'm showing you. Microsoft does have some email-only tiers that some people use for people that just really just use email. But yeah, SharePoint's included with almost everything. So, when you think about that moving what we call workloads to the cloud, to Microsoft 365. So we've kind of just talked about how to move your Microsoft Office to the cloud by getting the newest version of Office that's compatible with this. We talked about moving documents, so you can move documents from your common drive and put them up in SharePoint in a document library. We talked about how you can move your personal files up to OneDrive. And so you can work with it. And for some people, that's dramatic. That's going to give them 80% of what they need to collaborate and work effectively while they're have their remote workforce or their mobile workforce. But Microsoft has really added some other technology that takes that even a step further. And they call it Microsoft Teams. And it really is this hub for teamwork. So Teams is an application. And so it's like an application. You can look at it through a web browser. You can install it on a phone or tablet, or you can install it as a desktop app on your computer. And inside of that, you can create different teams. And within those teams, you can create different channels. We'll talk about that in a moment. But when you've got this Teams app, it allows you to chat back and forth. So that's one of those things you can do. You can store documents in Teams. And while you're accessing them in Teams, they're actually behind the scenes stored in SharePoint. But Teams gives you that place to look at it without having to go into SharePoint. So you can chat around documents. You can create many, many different teams. You can create different channels in those teams. Teams also allows you to do chat and voice and video conferencing. This idea of co-authoring that we talk about up here in Teams, you can do that with SharePoint and you can do that with Teams as well. And what co-authoring allows you to do is multiple people can be in a document at the same time. So if you've got it stored right now on your traditional file server, when you open up a document, Microsoft says, oh, this is read-only and would you like to view it? Now you have the option to be in it at the same time, which is really handy for a lot of different reasons. You might have multiple people working on a document at the same time. At Tobin, we have a regular leadership meeting every week, and there's an agenda and some materials we use for that meeting. And so before the meeting, there's always that rush to go in and update the agenda with what you want on the agenda, status and that. It used to be that we'd have to wait for someone to get out of the document. Now, when we have it stored up in Teams, which is stored in SharePoint, everyone can be in the document at the same time. And you can, while you're in the document, you can see who's in it and you can see things being added and you can go in and add your stuff. So really handy to be able to do that from anywhere. As I mentioned with Teams, you've got these concept of teams and channels. So, you might do a team for a department. You might do a team for a project you're working on or a client you have or an initiative. And then within those teams, you've got those different channels. So a great example is maybe your marketing department. Maybe you've got a team set up for your marketing department, but then you have a separate channel for your website and another channel for your social media and another channel for your webinars. So you can create those different channels, and what Teams does is it takes all those chats back and forth and all those files, and it sorts them and puts them right into those channels right where you want them. So from any device, you can go in and start chatting about a document. You can chat one-to-one. You can do group chats. You can chat within channels, but you've got full voice video conferencing. So out of the box with Microsoft Teams, you have voice and video conferencing you can do with your within your organization or with guests. So if you want to do a webinar like this, you can do it through Teams. It's an evolving product, and there's new features they're adding all the time. They're in intense competition with Zoom. I'm sure a lot of us have been on a lot of Zoom meetings. They keep improving Microsoft Teams, and there's even an add-on you can do where you can have integrated into your phone system or allow people to call into your meetings with a regular phone number. So that feature is available. So again, from a collaboration standpoint, you've got people all around the state, maybe people working up north or people in different counties or different states or wherever they're at or around the world. They can really be connected with Microsoft Teams. So we use Teams a lot. It really is a hub for a lot of the different technologies that Microsoft has with Microsoft 365. It's a central point to get to them. So right from within Teams, you can collaborate on files. So here you can see an example. This is our leadership team, and we have this general channel. We can put our documents in there, right? We've got all those things we can put in, and all of those are stored in SharePoint, but they're viewed through Microsoft Teams. So when I click on it, it'll open it right inside of Teams. I can start editing it there. If I want more advanced features, I can launch the full desktop application. It'll pull that document right into the desktop application. You can co-author, and it integrates with other third-party applications. So Microsoft Teams, they call it a hub. It's not just for Microsoft anymore. There was a time when Microsoft was the center of the universe and everything was Microsoft applications or nothing. Microsoft is not in that world anymore. They are, hey, we will support you running on Windows, of course, but we'll support you running on Android. We'll support you running on an iPhone. You want to use our documents to store, we'll put that in SharePoint for you. But if you're a Dropbox user, we can expose Dropbox inside of Teams. If you're a Google Drive user or ShareFile, you can go ahead and see those right from within Microsoft Teams. So it becomes that single pane of glass, that single spot to go in for everything. And it's incredibly handy. And again, it's included with all the different tiers of that I showed you earlier. So if you already have one of those, you have Microsoft Teams. And the beauty, you might be using some other products right now for chatting, like maybe texting on your phone or FaceTime or Google, it's not Hangouts anymore. I think they renamed it Meetup, or Zoom. But all of those are different products, and all of those become different passwords to manage and security and all of that. With this, you have all of these things. It's all inside of Microsoft. So it's one ID, one password, one two-factor authentication, one place to manage it all, one place to turn it on, one place to turn it off, one place to set permissions. So really look, where these products can fit inside of empowering your remote workforce. Someone's asking about how much data you can store in Teams, and I would have to get the exact number for this for you, but I believe every user that you have in your subscription gets a terabyte of data. I'll verify all of that. It's a lot, and you can always buy more if you need it. But I don't think we have any clients right now that have had to buy any more storage, and in some cases they've migrated their entire file server data up to Microsoft 365. So you get a lot of storage. Like I said, you can co-author those documents in there. So again, really handy, really great for a meeting. You can do desktop sharing inside of Microsoft Teams. So if you're doing a presentation and you want to bring up a PowerPoint or look at a document together, you can do that. It's got whiteboarding features. It's also handy internally when you're doing, maybe you've got an application that you're working with and someone's needs some help and you're trying to walk them through in a remote world. click here, go there. Now you can just share your screen or they can share their screen and you can look at what they're seeing together. That's really great for training, presentations, collaboration. Okay. Another thing we often have inside our regular workplace is we have paper forms we use. You might have different forms to gather information, maybe use a spreadsheet to gather information. Um, Microsoft has a solution for that, and it's called Microsoft Forms. So you can create forms, surveys, quizzes, polls to gather data. You can invite others to respond, and these can be public links, so you can even use this with your clients if you're trying to gather information. Maybe you're doing a project kickoff and you want to gather data about something. You can create these forms and send them off, and you get the data. It's all included with your Microsoft 365 subscription. You can see the real-time results, some analytics, and if you're an Excel geek, you can export everything to Excel for additional analysis. Uh, Great. So, sorry, I looked at something in the chat. So Amanda, who's on the line, Amanda works at Tobin Solutions, and she's one of our Office 365 or Microsoft 365 support people. She said she looked it up, and it's 25 terabytes per site in a collection or group. So in Teams. So that's a lot of data. Thank you, Amanda. So yeah, Microsoft Forms, another great technology. I consider this one of those hidden gems. Not everybody knows about this one with Microsoft 365, but what a great way to gather information. You can customize it, create your own questions, a lot of different little features for it. You do it through a web browser to set it up, you test it out, and then you send out the link and it works great. We use this for a lot of ways with uh, surveys internally. So we're kicking off, we have our team day, and we like to know how it went for everybody. So we send out a survey to the team. We use this when we were doing when we were first taking on working remotely. How is it going for people? What questions do they have? What's working? What's not working? We create a quick survey. We're able to gather information that way. So definitely invite you to check it out. Someone was remarking that a lot of features that are there, they didn't even know they were there. Yep, there's a lot, and there's even more. So this is really just some of the ones I picked that are really great for the remote workplace. There's a lot of other features Microsoft 365 has. We have another webinar called Microsoft 365 Hidden Gems. So you can take a look at that on our YouTube channel or watch it the next time we do a webinar on it. Another great gem that's included, right? So we're talking about storing your information. We're talking about collaborating. We're talking about gathering data and being able to do some things with it. There's another aspect of working from home that's a little bit different. And for some people, it's a bit of a challenge. And that's really that accountability piece. We know that people work hard and they want to do a great job. But at home, there can be distractions. You can't just yell over the wall for somebody and ask them or pop over by their desk and see where they're at with something. So one of the options that Microsoft has is something called Microsoft Planner. So Planner, it's basically a task management system, but you can create different plans for different projects. You can put a list of tasks in there. You can assign those tasks. You can share files. You can chat around tasks. You can see the status of when they're done. You can assign due dates. You can see which ones are overdue. Um, Really handy application. There's a app for your smartphone or smart device as well, so you can do all of this from anywhere. So if you're like me and you're out somewhere, maybe you're standing in line at the grocery store and you start to think about something you think about work and you want to remind somebody to do something. Maybe now you might fire off an email. Maybe they read the email, maybe they don't. You don't know what's happening with it. You could actually go right into Planner on your phone, create a task, assign it to somebody. They're going to get an email saying they've been assigned a task. You can put the due date, you can put other information, and you can track it. So, I think people in the world, they want to be accountable, right? They want to do a good job. Nobody likes to drop a ball. But we need structures, especially when we're really up to a lot, when there's a lot going on. There's a lot happening in the world. There's a lot happening in our businesses. If you're working from home, you might also be dealing with kids or dogs or other things. So, uh, having a structure for accountability, not to micromanage people, but to really support what they say they're going to do, this is an awesome opportunity for it. So check out Microsoft Planner. You've got it again, it's included, and you have everything there in one place. Um, Someone's asking about if you upload back up your on-site server to Teams, is there a feature for syncing? Um, if you mean syncing down some of that data down to your workstation, like a Dropbox type thing, um, OneDrive has a syncing feature. So you can take a team site, one of these document libraries inside of Microsoft Teams or SharePoint or your OneDrive, and you can actually synchronize it down to your workstation. So that's really handy. That allows you offline usage. So if you're going somewhere where there's sketchy internet, you can actually have your documents there. Now, one caveat, and this is an area where we can help, is you want to make sure that you set up that properly so that you're not trying to sync down 25 terabytes of information, because that will overwhelm the system and cause performance issues. So there's ways of breaking your documents down into different groups that sync it and make it a lot easier. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so we got that team accountability. Now what's something else that people have at the office? You may have a bookshelf where you've got binders of procedures, binders of handbooks, binders of other materials for things. Microsoft has a program called Microsoft OneNote. And that is a digital version of a binder or an organizer or a scrapbook or whatever you want to call it. You can have multiple notebooks. You can put materials in there. You can format it nicely, as you can see. You can attach files. You can sort them into different tabs. Each tab can have different pages. You can highlight. You can make it look really nice. These get fully synchronized. So if someone has, let's say you have a standard operating procedure handbook and you've put it into OneNote and you've sorted it out this way, people can have the OneNote application on their phone or on their tablet or on their desktop and then open it up and see what's in there. They can go and edit it, right? If you're creating a checklist and they say, they're working this process and they see, oh, there's another step we need to do. You can then add the step right into this. The checklist is automatically updated. Everybody automatically gets that new change, and they now have the latest checklist. So it's a great way of staying on top of these. One of the things with handbooks and procedure manuals is they get so dated so quickly. People will often not change them because they know they've got to go in, go find the document, update it, reprint it, tell everybody that it's out there. With OneNote, which is again included with your Microsoft Office, and the ability to do this within, guess where it stores these OneNote notebooks? In SharePoint. So they're accessible to everybody. You can see them in a web browser. You can see them from an application. You can see them from within Microsoft Teams. You can also, maybe you haven't noticed before, if you've got this and you have a newer version of Microsoft Outlook, you can actually attach a OneNote notebook to a meeting. So you can keep meeting notes in here, meeting to-dos, put those in here, really handy. If you create a checklist of items inside of OneNote and you flag it as a to-do, you'll automatically see it as an Outlook task. So you see it inside of Outlook or in the Microsoft To-Do application. So again, this is a really great way to empower your remote workforce. Give them the information they need to do their job. Get it into documents in SharePoint or get it into something like OneNote and make it really easy for them to know what to do. Another hidden gem of Microsoft 365 that I think is really helpful inside of empowering your workforce, is automation. Sometimes there are these manual tasks that people do. You, maybe you get an email, and then in that email there's an attachment, and then you take that attachment, and then you copy it to a folder, and then maybe you respond back to the person saying, hey, we got your information. A simple business process. There's some manual work there. And while you can establish a process around it and put that down as a checklist, there are ways to automate it. So you could say set up in Microsoft 365, they have the concept of a shared mailbox that multiple people can use. And that can be, whatever you want to call it. It could be new projects at your email address.com. And when a new project comes in to that shared mailbox, you can have a workflow, a Power Automate workflow that says as soon as a new item comes in, maybe it notifies the project manager or it notifies the owner. If there's an attachment, maybe it automatically takes that attachment off and puts it into a folder somewhere. Maybe it automatically responds to that person and says, hey, thank you for the project. We'll get back to you within 24 hours. So this automation is available to you, built into the system. A couple other questions that have come up. Can you set permissions within these applications about reading and writing? Yes, absolutely. So you can restrict content, you can restrict resources, documents, features of the applications to particular groups or to particular users, and you can set some basic permissions. Do they have read-only access or read-write access? And are you an administrator of this? So you can go in and manage all of those permissions. Another question is about integration with crosstalk with Salesforce. Yes, there are Salesforce integrations with Teams and with SharePoint. Salesforce is a kind of a best of breed application for CRM and sales management, and there are integrations with that. And to the extent that's going to vary, but there is some of that available right for you. So you can have something integration with, if something happens within SharePoint, it can automatically update Salesforce, and some of that is vice versa. So what specific features you need, that may vary, but it does have that. And not just with Salesforce, with Dropbox. How many of you guys receive documents from Dropbox? You can create a workflow that as soon as something comes into Dropbox, it automatically emails a coordinator or the owner or the person accountable. Or it takes that Dropbox file and puts it in to your SharePoint library where you want it to be. So there's some really neat integration that you can do, and again, built into what you've got. Microsoft Stream. Think of it just like an internal YouTube channel, right? We all are pretty familiar with YouTube and watching videos. Pretty much every single one of you has a portable movie studio in your pocket. We call that your smartphone. You're all familiar with recording videos from your phone, right? A lot of us will take a video of our kids' activities or some event. You click your camera and you say video and you say record. What do you do with those videos? You can make training videos for your team. You can make training videos for your clients. You can do procedure videos. You can do a welcome video as you onboard new members of your team. You can create those videos and you can store them inside of Microsoft Stream, and it works just like YouTube, but inside your company. So it's not meant to replace YouTube for public things, but it's really, again, that internal video. And that's why some people don't use YouTube. They love to create a video, but they don't want the world seeing what it is. They just want it for their team because it's an internal procedure or a message from the owner or something like that. You can put those in, put them inside. People get a link to it. They can see those videos. You can download them to a smartphone. So maybe you've got people that do maintenance on equipment, and you want to put some procedures, and they want to be able to see that offline because maybe where their equipment is at, they haven't got good internet service. They can download the videos that you've got. You can download your OneNote notebook and documents to your device so that you can see that from anywhere. You can take presentations like this. If you have an internal PowerPoint presentation, you can take it. If you want to store these presentations, maybe these are things that you do, but you eventually send them to a client and you want a place where someone can find these videos, you can find the video, download it, and then send it off to somebody. So check out Microsoft Stream. It's very cool. Another feature you've got for remote workforce, right? What is another aspect of being at your office? Undeniably, there is a social aspect to it. Human beings are social beings. Even the people that are the most reserved, crave some human contact from time to time. And in person is one thing, but just having that kind of fun side. There's no, when you're working from home, there's little opportunity for those chance encounters. There's little opportunity for those water cooler conversations. Hey, how was your weekend? Oh, really? Your kids did that? Great. Oh, your kids going off to school? Great. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about your dog dying. Whatever that is, there's that social side of things. And that gets missed in this remote world. There's that heads down kind of a thing. And, there's some stories coming out of people that are so not wanting to work from home because they're missing that social aspect that they're actually leaving the organization and going places where they've got in-person teams. So one way you might be able to address that is through social media. Most of you are familiar with Facebook or Snapchat or Pinterest or Instagram. Microsoft has an internal social media platform that looks a lot like Facebook. So just think Facebook when you've got this. You can set up different channels inside of it. You can have the social side of things. People can put up pictures. You can chat back and forth. You can comment on things. You can celebrate. You can really get employee engagement with this. All those things that people use Facebook for or Facebook page for, you can do internally. So again, you don't have to worry about any of this information leaking outside of your organization. You can celebrate, you can have that information. It's all there. You can look at it from your web browser. And of course, there's a phone app for it. So when you're at your phone, you can take a picture. I use this sometimes when I'm out and about. Maybe I see something, I see our clients somewhere. One of our clients is a real estate company, and I see their signs, and I took a picture of the sign and posted it on Yammer and said, here's what our clients are up to. Um, we use it for some other internal things like security alerts and some of that. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this. Um, and uh, you can use this any way you see fit. But again, you've got it. Try it out. See how you might use it. Celebrate birthdays, anything like that. Someone's asking if you only have 5 users, how can other coworkers share in Yammer? So when I said 5 users before, I want to make sure I'm clear. The Microsoft 365 can scale to thousands of users. So you can have as many users as you want, as many subscription licenses as you purchase. When I said 5 users before, that's how many copies each user is entitled to install the desktop applications like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So each user can install it on up to 5 devices. But within Teams, within Yammer, within SharePoint, you're limited only by the number of users that you have a subscription for. So if you've got 20 people in your company and you have 20 Microsoft 365 subscriptions available, all 25 people can go ahead and use Yammer. So it's kind of a fun application. We've also seen it get used for kind of real-time communication, another format beyond Microsoft Teams. We've seen people use it if they're having a party or an educational event or something, and the people running that party are using this to chat back and forth and share pictures of the event, and then they do something with that information later, keep the rest of the company up to date on what's happening with that event. They can check in on it. So again, built in, free, works out of the box, um, a really neat tool. Another way to really keep people engaged while they're working remotely. So I've touched on a lot of the things that, the basic things that people need. We talked about security, we talked about collaboration, we talked about document sharing and collaboration. We talked about chatting and voice and video and the social aspect of it. We talked about accountability built into something like Planner. So there's really some great ways of taking Microsoft 365 and empowering your remote workforce. Um, but that's there are all these tools. I've got a hammer, but I can't build a house. And so when you think about this, you've got all these tools at your disposal. Some are pretty easy to use out of the box. Um, some you might want to wonder, like, how can it really fit? So you might be wondering, how can Team Tobin assist? So, before you jump into Microsoft 365 and start moving things up there, take a little step back. What's your strategy? What's your plan for doing this? You want to make sure that when you're doing it, you're not just taking what you've got and moving it up. You want to make sure you're using the new features that are out there. You want to make sure that you're using it the way it's designed, right? While you can, turn a screw with a butter knife, a good screwdriver is a better use of the tool. So you want to make sure you're using the tools that you need, using the way they're designed. You asked about security. You want to make sure you've got good security around this. It is easy to make some security mistakes with this and accidentally give people access to things that they shouldn't have access to. So you want to make sure that you're doing it the way it's designed, and that could just be some coaching and training from us, or maybe we're the ones helping you with setup and administration of this. If you want to migrate data and applications, we can also assist with that. We can help you get your data up in a way that works so that it's seamless. People get the training, they understand how to use it, and it's an empowering experience versus a frustrating experience. There's a lot of war stories out there about people that just tried to take their data, move it to SharePoint without any thought, without any training, and said, go have at it. And people got really frustrated. It really um, put a crimp in productivity. Doing some planning, doing some proper migrations of this will really empower people's productivity and effectiveness. We include training, so we can help you with boot camps, we can help you with more detailed training, we can help you with train the trainer type training, so that people really know how to use these tools. All of these things, it's your business, whether they're documented or not, you've got processes, you've got systems, you've got ways, your way of doing things. If you're going to use some of this technology to do it, let's take a look at those processes. Have us sit down and watch how you take a process from step A to step Z. How does it happen? How do you fulfill on a new project? How do you handle internal projects? How do you get the work done? I promise you, there's some system or process there, and if it's not documented or well thought out, people are kind of rolling it on their own. And then what do you get? You get missteps, you get mistakes, you get rework. So one of the things we can do is sit down with you and look at it and really understand it with you, and then look for what would be the best way to bring that into Microsoft 365. And not just bring it into Microsoft 365, but maybe there's some ways to integrate, to automate, to do some development that'll actually make those processes more effective, more accountable, more streamlined, more time saving, more money saving. So, we can be your Swiss Army knife around that. So that is our presentation, our webinar. Thank you so much for being here. I know there's other things you could have been doing during this time, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. We have other webinars. We do them pretty much once a month, so look for those coming in our newsletter. I love speaking. I love educating our customers about what's possible with technology, and we love helping them understand in plain language how this technology works. So, give me the opportunity to do that. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to have more webinars for your organization, or maybe you're part of other organizations, maybe you're in a board of directors somewhere, or you work at a nonprofit, or you have some community involvement somewhere, we're happy to present there as well. Please follow us on social media. This webinar is recorded, so it will be going up on YouTube in a couple of days or sooner, so you'll have access to it then. After this, you will be getting a link to that survey. So please complete that survey and let us know how we did. Let us know how this content was. Let us know what you want to see in future webinars. We love getting that feedback. It's really valuable. Then you'll get a link to a PDF of the slide deck and also a link to the YouTube video. So I'm going to